So tonight, we're going to talk about current trends in not personal computing. Back in the old days, when we all had these tower computers, remember those old things? Steve has one. You know, this tall. Back then, we used to talk about trends in personal computing. The problem is, it's now so much more than just that thing that sits on beside our desk. Oops. Today, I gotta use the down key. Today, it's more about personal computing, personal technology, because it really is more personal to you and what you do with it. So what we're gonna talk about tonight are first a few questions. I always ask questions to get a sense of where people are in their use of their personal technology. Then we're going to talk about some general trends, and finally some predictions. So let's get started. First, the questions. So how many of you have purchased new personal technology in the last 3 months? Excellent. What'd you get?
Surface Pro 3.
Okay. Who else? What'd you get?
Asus Android tablet.
Android tablet.
Windows Phone.
Windows Phone. Excellent. How many of you use a smartphone?
Every day.
Hey, pretty good showing there. How about a phablet? How many of you know what a phablet is? Okay. You'll see it later on, but the short answer is anything that has a screen size between 5.5 inches and 7 inches. The industry has decreed that that is a phablet. Yes, ma'am?
I have one.
Okay, good. So you have, how big is your phablet?
It's getting
iPod.
The mini?
The mini iPod.
Okay. iPad? Cool.
That's
Mini
All right,
iPad.
good. Moving on. How about a tablet? Everyone's got it, right? Lots of people got tablets. How about a convertible hybrid tablet? Okay, one person.
Keyboard.
Okay, you'll see more about that later on. A laptop, yeah, okay, people use laptops. Desktops, yeah, they're still around, because it depends on what you're trying to do, whether or not you're using something small or something larger. Right? All right. A few more questions. Okay, how many of you have 8 gig or more RAM in your piece of personal technology? Good. All right. Now, for your portable technology, you know, these things you carry around. How many have more than 32 gig of storage on that? Anybody have 64? 128? Okay, I just want to push the envelope a little bit, see if anybody is going in that direction. How about using a solid state drive instead of a hard drive? Okay, a few of you. Okay, how many of you use programs from one ecosystem on a different platform? Let me give you an example. How many of you use Google Maps on an Apple iPhone? Okay? Or maybe you use, maybe you use Microsoft Word on an Apple platform. Right? Okay. You'll see a lot more of that too. Anybody deposited a check using a smartphone? No. All right. How about pay using a smartphone? Okay. I'm going to say a few words about that right now, right? Because what's happened recently, I mean, for a while now, the Android platform has had Google Wallet, right? And it uses a technology called near-field communications. I don't know what the adoption of that was. Anybody have an idea?
Use Apple Pay.
Okay. Recently, with the iPhone 6, they've come up with this technology called Apple Pay. And the way it works is you go into a merchant, you buy something, and they have that little reader there, you know, with all the little emblems on it. What you do is you put your iPhone up to it, your iPhone comes alive, it says, "Give me your fingerprint, dummy." You put your fingerprint on it, it goes ding, done. That's it, you've paid for it. Not only that, but within seconds, you get a confirmation from your credit card company that magic happened.
Extraction.
Okay? And as a side benefit, whenever you use the physical credit card associated with that to buy something, within seconds, bing, you get a confirmation that it happened.
How do you get the confirmation, on a text?
Text or email.
Yeah, it comes
It's
text.
essentially a text message, yes.
Text message.
It's a text message, okay? It comes up as a notification.
But
But-
you can't print it.
No, but you don't need to, because you know that it happened right then and there. Boom. In fact, the one story I'll tell is, like, last week, I was on a website, trying to sign up for something, and I got through the process, put in my credit card, yada, 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 hit the go button. They came back and said, "We're sorry, we can't complete your transaction. You must call the magic number and talk to a real person to make all this happen." And I thought, well, that's interesting, because within seconds, there were two things that showed up. One was for 1 cent going in, and I figured, well, that's, reaching out and making sure you're really there.
Right.
And then the second one was for the full amount. Within seconds, I found it. So when I finally get a hold of these jerks, I'm going to say, "Hey, what's going on here?" Because, what's that noise?
Somebody's alarm over there.
Where's it coming from?
Charging your credit card.
Whose device is making noise here? What do we got? Oh, look at this. Check it out. Do you know, I gotta tell you a story.
Just paid for something.
Take care of it.
I gotta tell you a story, because it relates to what just happened. I was giving a talk one time, down in Mexico, I think it was, yeah, and there were several of us. And lots of people's cell phones were going off during these presentations. Very, very disturbing. And I was the last presenter, and I said to the people, I said, look, if that happens during my talk, I'm going to, and sure enough, I was giving my presentation, someone's cell phone went off, I took off my shoe, like Get Smart, and I said, "Hi, Bob Allen, how you doing? President of AT&T. Yeah, I'm down here in Mexico. Here, you want to see?" Like that, okay? Put my shoe back on, kept right on talking. Later on in the hallway, someone came up to me and said, "Get smart." I said, "You're right." So the point is, whatever happens, you go with the flow. All right, so anyway, that's the way. But the point about Apple Pay is maybe keep an eye on it, because people might get used to doing things this way, and we'll see what happens. By the way, there is another thing coming on the scene in 2015 called Current Capital C. If you say it quickly, it sounds like currency. And it's another way of doing it. And the big stores, Target, Walmart, those folks want to do their own thing. And by the way, they want to tie directly into your checking account. Forget this credit card stuff, man. We're going to go directly into your account. Cut the credit card people out of the mix. Yes, sir.
Bill, talking about all this paying through the cell phone.
Yeah.
Do we need to put some sort of virus protection on the phones in order to protect ourselves against problems relating to these things?
It's way beyond that.
I think we're way
It's
beyond.
way
Let
beyond
me tell
that.
you one point about this.
Okay, I did go to a different presentation with a different group of
That's fine.
technology people
That's
at the
fine.
Middletown Library, and that's basically what they said, that all these phones need some sort of virus protection in order to protect yourself against.
Absolutely. And if it were an Android phone, I'd sure as hell get that.
Yep.
All right? This is an Apple device.
Yep.
Apple sandboxes all their stuff, so you by the way, the other thing with Apple Pay is I'm not passing a credit card number across for the transaction. What we're passing is a unique identifier. It's a token. It's a number that changes each time, but that's what passes across. And Apple doesn't know about what's going on. The merchant doesn't know about what's going on.
So the Apple phones are more protected than.
They're the most secure right now
Yeah.
on the
Than the
market.
Right, they are. So, but like I mentioned before, we have Google Wallet, who's got a similar type of deal. We'll see how things play out when I give the talk 2 years from now.
Does Microsoft have a wallet?
Not that I'm aware of. Okay? Anyway, so we talked about that. Let's move on. We paid use a smartphone, electronic boarding pass, right? Loving it. Health tracking device, how about that? All right?
Blood pressure monitor count?
Absolutely. Is it tied into your phone?
Yep.
Excellent. Is it tied into an iDevice or something else?
No. Tie it into the computer.
Okay, well, the point is, as time goes on, by the way, this iPhone 6, one of the things that it comes with is something called health. And by default, it keeps track of how many steps I walk, how many miles I walk, how many flights of steps I go up each day. So it keeps me honest. You know that old maxim, if you're really into it, you're doing 10,000 steps a day? So my daily average is about 7,000. But I gotta tell you, on a day when I do the Zumba, dude, I peaked at 13.7 one day. Zumba or step, you know, and do the same thing, right? So, and you're going to see more and more and more of this because, yes, sorry.
Are you telling me the phone's a pedometer too? Yeah.
This has a separate chip in it that is strictly used for motion tracking.
Accelerometer.
It also has in it a barometer, so it can tell when you've climbed the flight of stairs.
Ooh, wow.
The only thing you might want to be watching about that is the privacy of, you can also change the privacy of what the health app can see.
Right.
That's the only concern on that. You
Yeah.
know,
But all this stuff is, you know, it's now coming of age, and, you know, we'll see how it progresses. But the opportunities are starting to show themselves. All right. Oh, how many of you checked into your hotel room using your smartphone as a key? Not yet, but you will next year. Stargate, Hilton, one of those chains. They're going to give you the app, and you're going to be able to check into your hotel room. Check in, check out, whatever. Yeah, it's coming. Barcode, do a price comparison.
That's check-in,
Yeah,
not open the door.
oh, open the door too.
So that
Yeah.
must use near-field technology or something like that to know
Must
that
be,
you're
yeah,
at the
something like that.
door.
I'm not sure exactly which technology we're using,
There's
but
two
that's
different,
coming.
two different things.
Yeah, but that's coming. Being able to get in your room too. Scan the barcode. Oh, here you go. How many of you have shown the police a digital driver's license?
Coming soon.
Coming
New Jersey.
soon to an Iowa city near you. Yes, 2015, the state of Iowa will issue digital driver's licenses that can go on your device. Oh, if you want a paper copy, you can have that too. Just in case you want to do it the old-fashioned way. What else we got? Oh, how many of you spend more time on a small screen than a large screen in terms of viewing stuff? Half and say, okay. How about reading a book on an electronic device? How about electronically borrowed the book from your local library? Right? By the way, the name of the app is Overdrive, all one word. And from that, you can attach to your local library. Monmouth County does it. And once you get there, just download it, away you go.
There's now a new app called Hoopla. I went to Milltown Library, and
Yep.
there's another app called Hoopla that I think they're using in store.
Hoopla?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's maybe more for video, but I'm not sure if that's
All right.
also.
Hoopla. We'll have to check into that.
One word about the overdrive.
Yes.
Normally when you take something by overdrive,
Yep.
it will disappear after
14 days.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you can play it over something like proper recorder, and then you have an
Oh, yeah,
MP3.
okay. Well, you're doing a backdoor cheat. Okay. Cass, I would have expected that from you. Now, okay, here you go. How many of you have read more stuff on electronic media than you have on physical paper media? Yeah, see how this is happening? See where we're going with this, folks? What else we got? Communicate with friends using social networking site. Got to keep track of those kids and grandkids, you know? Log into your computer using facial recognition software. Anybody doing that yet? You will. gaming console using body motion, you know? You get in front of your Xbox, you do this. Speech recognition. Anybody using speech recognition software? Hey, every time I talk to Siri, you know, it does it.
Siri.
Yeah, or Google Talk.
Google
speech
Talk's
recognition.
way better than Siri.
Okay, that's a religious statement, that's fine.
We were watching Barbara Streisand.
Yes?
And the Ruth asked Google Talk, how old is Barbara Streisand?
Sure.
And immediately an answer.
Of course.
73.
Absolutely, not a problem. And by the way, don't forget Microsoft is coming on the scene with Cortana. Who's got the Windows phone? Cortana is in there, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. The allegation is that with Windows 10 coming out, that the next technical preview version that's due to come to us who are playing with it in January may have Cortana in it. Stay tuned.
What is Cortana? What is
Cortana is Microsoft's Siri,
Yeah.
which is, you know, good. Google has Google Talk
Right.
for recognition. Apple has Siri. Microsoft has Cortana. All right? The battle of the biggies.
Hey, William, what
Yes.
the Google Talk,
Yeah.
what platforms does it run on?
Many.
Like, is it Windows?
I don't know about Windows. Does Google Talk run on Windows?
Android?
On Chrome, yeah, I think it.
Does Google Talk have an app? Or can you use it through Chrome?
It runs on iPad also.
It does.
It does? Okay.
It works in Windows?
Yeah, if you have a Chrome browser on Windows, yeah. And I would expect it's, does that do Chrome?
It does, no, the Windows Phone doesn't. I don't
Does
believe
it? Okay,
does, no.
all right. Because that would come as sort of a side benefit with running Chrome browser. Okay, let's see what else we got. Oh, here's an interesting one. How many of you have used Skype to talk to someone overseas and have it translate the language?
No.
See, yeah, I got you in that second part. Yeah, that's why I changed it from last time. Because the Skype is in beta test right now. The thing I saw had a classroom of students in California having a Skype conversation with a classroom of students in Mexico City. Each student was speaking their native language, and they were talking to each other. Because talk, translate, whoop, out the other end.
Did they
Talk,
understand
translate.
each other?
Apparently so, enough. Because we could get into long conversations about the context and the whole bit of that.
How does it present the translation? Does it actually talk to this person in the other
Yes,
language?
yes.
There's
Yes.
no subtitles, it just talks.
No, it translates.
I think you're missing a point, Bill. Most of those people in California came from Mexico.
See, that's why I enjoy speaking for this group, because it's more of a conversation than a presentation. We have fun with this. What else I got? Okay, watch TV using your tablet as your primary device. Anyone doing that yet? Anybody drop off film, look at the film? Every now and then I have to go back and check and see if, you know,
It's still got a couple of
if someone's still ever doing that.
What is film?
There you go, bingo. How many of you do not have a landline phone anymore? There you go, see this? Another trend we're starting to see. Yes.
By landline, do you mean copper wire to the central office?
I mean
or
something,
cable?
something that used to be in the old days connected via copper. You could,
Either that or else your internet phone in your house, that's what he's talking about.
Bill, you're not talking about voice over IP.
no, I'm not talking about voice over IP, I'm talking about other things.
Like one of the telephone company.
Right.
Thanks to the
Things provided by the telephone company, yeah, you know, remember those landline things, yeah. Maybe I should put landline in quotes.
Sandy,
I'm sorry?
my landline, which I insisted upon keeping, worked wonderfully in Sandy. I didn't have electricity for 5 days.
There you go.
But my phone worked.
Absolutely, because you're one of the few people that New Jersey Bell, or now known as Verizon, actually kept the copper in the ground for. Do you realize that if you get fiber Fios to your house with Verizon, they will cut your copper and never use it again.
Never.
Never. If you decide you don't want the TV, you don't want the internet, all you want is phone service, they keep the fiber there.
I had them leave the copper lines in.
Yeah, but they're not gonna do anything with it.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, the copper lines are for anyway. Anyway, okay, moving on. Yeah, how young is too old to use the computer? This really hasn't changed a whole lot. Are we still seeing around 1.5 years old, 1.75? Is it still do you see that? That's always been my experience. You know, my 1.75-year-old grandson would get on the iPad and when they're doing FaceTime with me thing. So, what else do I got? Oh yeah, printer connected over a wireless network.
Yeah.
All right? How about a printer connected to the cloud? Somehow, some way. Google Print, stuff like that, okay? 3D printer, anyone got one yet? Oh, you will, don't worry about it. Now, how many of you have higher speed to the internet through your smartphone than you do through your ISP? That may happen too. You know, watch that. All right. How's your home thermostat? Connected to the internet yet? Really? You can't go and see what your temperature is at home? Would you like to know what temperature is at home? Let's see. Oh, I could.
But you
could.
could use it.
Huh?
Nest?
Nest, yeah. You know, my wife hasn't gotten home yet. Remember we said before, where's my wife? It's still on the auto away thing. Right now, it's 61 degrees in the house. You know, she's probably gonna get home soon. I should probably turn it on. Let me do that. Yeah, I'm gonna set it to home. That way, when she gets home, it'll be warm for her. See, by the way, notice the fact it's now orange because it turned on. Right? See? So yeah, you can do things like that. Okay. What's next? Oh, general trends. Okay. What we're seeing here, and I mentioned this a couple of years ago, and that you're going to see stuff, screen sizes from small to large, right? So there's continuity in the form factor for your personal technology. Ecosystems are really, really big and getting bigger. And mobile computing, it really is the sweet spot. We're no longer talking about the big honkers. We're talking about the little honkers and a little bit bigger honkers. You know, this is where it's at. More ways to interact, Internet of Things. Bandwidth and internet usage still continues to grow. Now, as an example, here's the Apple continuum of screen sizes. Over on the right, you see the smaller, older, the 5S with its 4-inch screen, iPhone 6 with 4.7, a Pop-Tart, which is 4.92. You have to put this stuff in perspective. And then your 6 Plus, and your Mini, and your iPad Air about 0.7. But you see, as I mentioned 2 years ago, the way the industry was going was to give people a choice in how big they wanted their thing to be, their phablet or not. As far as sizes here, you notice that the iPhone 4S was that big, 5S got bigger, 6 over on the right-hand side, even bigger yet. But with the 6, a nice thing is they have this concept called zoom. So those of us over 10 years old whose eyes are kind of going a little bit, we can zoom this stuff, and instead of having smaller icons and smaller text, you can see things a little bit bigger. Right? So they do that for you. There's your iPad mini for size. Now, I mentioned hybrid convertibles before. This is an example of a hybrid convertible where you can have it as a laptop or stand it up or flip it over and make it a tent or flip it all the way over and make it into a tablet. That's the whole idea of a hybrid convertible. The other thing that's going on here is, remember back in the old days when we used to say, wow, when we get HDTV, we're going to be really in Fat City. And then more recently, you've heard all the TV manufacturers say, you know, you really, really need ultra high def, 4 times the resolution TV. And we're saying, what are you, crazy? What do I need that for? But Apple outdid them all. They recently came out with this thing that is a 5K. And you can see here the comparison between HDTV 4 times and 5 times in terms of number of pixels for the clarity of what they're trying to do. So that's another trend that we're seeing here, along the continuum of granularity. Okay, a few words about where things are going. Here's a projection from IDC. And by the way, this is where we get the definition of phablet. That right now, we got smartphones up at top, and you see here the projection is that those things called desktops and portables are kind of languishing along a straight line for the next few years. But look at things like phablets and smartphones climbing up that ladder. Right? That's where they see this going. Now here's one of my other favorite things. Back in 1991, Radio Shack ran an ad, and this is the ad. If you look at the things in that ad, you will quickly realize that all of the functionality that's talked about by the totality of things in that ad are right here. This is it. This is 2014. So the real question is, so we pick up a Radio Shack ad today and look at it, and what are they talking about? They're talking about smartphones, they're talking about tablets, they're talking about headphones. You know, is there still a world to conquer? Not sure. Stay tuned.
Tail chain walking.
Check with me in another 15 years, we'll see where we're at. Okay, let's talk a little bit about ecosystems here. Of course, we're talking about apps and cloud drives and the different platforms that we talked about. Social network integration, photo sharing, email calendar, and the big players, Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and to a lesser extent, the Linux distribution called Ubuntu. But as I talked about last time, this is what the ecosystem looked like 7 years ago. There were several areas where you saw major gaps in red. If you go forward to 2012, you see that for the most part, everyone had stuff going on in their own world. However, if you look at it today, you see, oh my goodness, look at this. Not only did Amazon come out with a phone, which may or may not have been successful depending upon your perspective, and of course now Microsoft plays movies through Xbox Video. The other thing you're starting to see here is that I added another category, automotive. They want to get in your car because they realize you spend on average 50 minutes a day in your car. So they want to hook you up with CarPlay if you're in the Apple ecosystem. Android is talking about Android Auto. Read an article this morning about how they want to get into the cars so that you can, when you turn it on, you're running Android. By the way, keep in mind, Android is a Linux distribution for embedded firmware products, like smartphones, cars, embedded processors. That's what Android is. But anyway, you see here that everyone's got a play in several different dimensions. And in fact, if I talk about computers for a minute, Google is really putting pressure on the low end of the market. How many of you have or know someone who has a Chromebook? Right? Do you know what a Chromebook is? Chromebook is basic hardware that runs the Chrome browser. And you do everything in the browser. Now, when they first came out, you were doing everything and it was up in the cloud. It was just a connection to the cloud. More recently, they've added more local storage onto that device. So even though you're not connected to the cloud, you can do things, and then when you get connected to the cloud, you'll sync up. So everything's up in the cloud again. Yes?
Based on the pricing of the Chromebook, where I see it is it's going into schools a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, in fact, my granddaughter has one, And I don't know if she started using it yet, but I am aware of many schools that do have it. But what the reaction to that from the Wintel side is you're starting to see Windows machines in that $200 to $300 category that have basic capabilities in them. I mean, HP's coming out with a couple of them. So stay tuned. We'll see where all this leads in the low end. But that,
What's
yes.
the shortcomings of the Chromebook?
What are the shortcomings of the Chromebook?
You have to be on the internet.
Well, not anymore.
Well,
You know,
It's a good
like I
idea.
said, when they first came out, yes. But more recently, you can do stuff locally and then sync up when you get connected. So, but we'll see where, I mean, this is fascinating to see where they're squeezing that low end. Okay, yes? Was there a question? Okay, by the way, how are we coming on time? Because all I'm doing is talking.
you're good.
Am I good?
It's only 20 to 9.
Wow.
About 9.
Fantastic, excellent. Okay, ecosystems, where the money is. Now, this particular chart may be a little bit old because it showed that the developers, they like Apple, make a lot of money there. More recently, because Android and Android phones are at the low end of the price scale, and what you're seeing is these lower end Android phones are just what the emerging markets of Brazil, Russia, India, China, places like that, where there's going to be lots and lots and lots of growth over the next 3 to 5 years. That's what they're selling. Okay? So you may see more activity in the Android space. You know, my attitude is this is like a religious war. We don't have this conversation. We'll see how it all plays out. Right?
Android has a much larger market share than Apple does.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Now apps, you may remember that when I gave the talk 2 years ago, we said, okay, both of these platforms, Google and Apple, are racing to get 1 million apps up there in their app store. Well, guess what? We got there. You know, September 2014, one survey says 1.3. July 2014, another survey says Google's got 1.3. Everyone's got lots of apps. And apps from one ecosystem are used on other ecosystems, you know, as I mentioned before. So we're not at a dearth of apps. But the one thing that is happening is that mobile is eating the internet world and the personal technology space. Absolutely. Think about it. Computing cost, performance. Back in the day, when I still had color in my hair, back here in '92, look at this. It cost you $222 to get 1 million transistors. Okay? 1 million. You see this device here? Does anybody want to guess how many transistors are in the CPU in this? Any guesses?
1.5 million.
How about 2 billion? The A8, which is the CPU in this guy, 2 billion transistors. That's why it's dropping through the floor over there. Now, the other thing that's happening is more and more people are getting connected to the internet. And that's just going to drop like a rock. Here you go. By 2020, a few short years from now, 80% of the adults in the world are going to have smartphones. None of those flip phone things, Bill. You gotta get rid of it, man. You gotta get rid of programs someday. Okay, here's another interesting thing. Do you realize in this quarter, the number of people doing their banking through smartphones and things like that exceeds those of us who still use things like Quicken on a desktop? You see who's winning here? Also, the other thing that happens is, here's a source from April. You notice how mobile keeps growing and growing and growing, and these other things keep dying and dying and dying? Well, one reason for that could be there's a generational shift going on here. Turns out that people age 75 plus watch a lot of TV. That's the green, right? Whereas people in the younger age brackets, down here, 16 to 24, man, they do most of their stuff with the smartphone. It's attached to them. Absolutely attached. And if you ask people, what would you miss the most if I took it away from you? Well, you know, if you're 75 or older, you're going to miss TV. But if you're younger, you're going to miss your smartphone and your computer. Absolutely. Consumption shift. As vendors offer you different sizes of screens to do various things with, even Apple finds out that, you know, back here when we had an iPhone 5 and an iPad, 55% people were looking at stuff on the iPhone 5. However, with the iPhone 6 Plus phablet, remember we said 5.5 inches is a phablet? Now you're seeing 80% doing stuff on the iPhone 6 Plus and only 20% doing it on a tablet or an iPad. So even Apple's seeing this. New ways to interact. Touch, voice, gestures, natural user interface, gesture control. These things have been around for a while and they continue to get better and better. Now, technology is going to the point where it's going to be something that you wear rather than something that you hold. Wearables are coming. Not only that, but you got people experimenting with virtual reality glasses, things of that nature. Here is the current cast of characters in the wearable category. Everyone's got one except Apple, of course, and they're expected to announce or come out with it in 2015. They've already announced it. But you can see that they do everything from make and receive phone calls with attached phone around somewhere to tracking your activity and your fitness. And it's only going to get more so. It's absolutely nuts, isn't it? Google Glass, there's what they were up to. There's Oculus Rift. Now you got to admit, that does look kind of crazy. But I will have to say to you, think back. When things came out decades ago, weren't there a few people who looked at whatever it was and said, that's crazy, that'll never fly. And look what happened to that.
What is Oculus Rift?
Virtual reality.
It's a virtual reality screen. I forget which platform it works on, but it's out there. Internet of Things. You have, what we're getting is the point where we talked before about the thermostat that's connected to the internet. You got refrigerators that can talk over the internet to think about what you need to restock. As we go on in the next period of time, you're going to see more and more and more things with sensors that can talk over the internet to whatever it is trying to control them and keep track of them. And of course, this is a lot of machine-to-machine communication going on here with lots of different types of information. And of course, we realize when things are connected, our lives are going to change. But we've seen that before, we will continue to see that. And bandwidth is still on the rise. When it comes to fixed bandwidth, it's all about the various carriers talking about getting you gigabits to your home, right? When it comes to wireless, we're talking about long-term evolution for 4G LTE that has a peak theoretical of 300 down and 75 up. When they come along with what they call LTE Advanced, the target for that is 1 gig down, which is getting close to what you can do over wired, sort of, yes?
Did anybody just understand that anybody has a Comcast wireless internet, they actually use that for a Wi-Fi hotspot in your house? Now you have the right to opt out of that. They actually allow part of the bandwidth. So now if you're running out in your little smartphone and you see a Wi-Fi Xfinity hotspot, it could be your own router.
That's
being
right.
a hotspot there
That's
for
right.
them.
That's right.
Not unless you knew it, but
Yep.
it's there.
Oh, by the way, the other thing is, if you have a smartphone with AT&T, it will constantly search for a hotspot called ATT Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Absolutely. I found one. Yes.
With all the progress in technology,
Yes.
I find there's a tremendous gap in people understanding how to use this technology.
Absolutely.
It just apply to uneducated. I'm talking about engineers.
Of
and
course.
many of my friends. I make give me some example. I call somebody.
Right.
The phone rings and rings and rings and rings. Now I know what it means is that they have a call waiting and they have no idea how to switch to the other call.
That's a
That's
possibility.
number one.
That's right.
Number two, I get through, I get to an answering machine.
Yep.
The answering machine doesn't give the name of the person or the
Right.
phone number. It
Right.
says, we're transferring to a mailbox.
Right.
Sorry, the mailbox is full.
Right.
Goodbye.
Right, right. Now, there's a third possibility. They don't use the phone anymore, Cass. Dude! You know, those of us who came up through the business gotta realize something. We're not a phone company anymore. You know, I used to give a talk many years ago where I said, my daughter went back to her dorm room in college, and she said the first thing she did was check for email.
I remember it.
Remember that story?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then she looked askance at the answer machine. And I would tell people, because I worked for AT&T at the time, I said, thank God I don't work for a telephone company. Thank God I work for a communications company. Because what we're seeing is a shift in the modality of communication. Well, guess what? That shift is still going on. And you're texting, right? They don't use the phone. Now, there is a bright spot. What is increasing, I don't know if I have a chart on this, but they're starting to do more and more video calls over mobile. Right? So once again, you're replacing something that only used to be ear and mouth with ear, mouth, face, and the whole deal right here. You got it. So who knows? 5 years from now, we could be saying, of course people are using that. They're just doing it with full video, that's all. Stay tuned, folks. It gets interesting. All right, now we talked about the battle of the giants doing this gigabit thing. Here's a picture. You know, you got AT&T in various cities trying to wire people up. You've got Google doing the gigabit thing. You've got Cox, you've got CenturyLink, and you got a bunch of independent projects where cities are taking it upon themselves to, quote, wire up their towns for very fast internet. Internet usage continues to grow beyond belief. If you think about it, we've got so much bandwidth in the internet now that what you can do in a minute on the internet is, what's that? You can take 47,000 app downloads and all this stuff, make all this stuff happen in a minute. And if you look at what's going on today and the fact that they're still growing this thing across the world, as time goes on, it's just going to go, wow. Now, we talked about 4G. Well, they're already talking about 5G in terms of speed. And this is a picture of a 5G prototype. Right?
That's how they're gonna move bits
I think
on
that's...
wheels?
Huh?
They're gonna move bits on wheels?
Well, that's just the prototype of the thing you can do 5G. You know, I think it was made by Ericsson. So, you know, they're going. Now, some near-term predictions, and this is stuff that will probably happen next year, because these particular characteristics are based on a new processor coming out by Qualcomm called the Snapdragon 810, which is going to be used in those nice Android devices, right? So you're going to be able to do 4K video, juggle things around, simulate optical zoom, record directional audio, use your device as your home PC. Now remember, that was tried several years ago when Motorola first came out with their smart device. Didn't fly very well. But given the amount of power that we have in there now, it's a possibility. Sure. And game like it's a console. Now,
Yes.
To close, in the last few minutes I have, let me just quickly review some stuff that I used last time that Ray Kurzweil made to see if we're getting any closer to what he was talking about. Brains will extend to the cloud where we allow us to learn new things at any age. Possible, right? Able to selectively erase pieces of our memory. Isn't that called drinking? We will be in augmented reality at all times, because after all, you're not here and neither am I, but it seems like we are, right? Hey, machines will be able to match the intelligence of humans. This is always a scary thought, because the question is, okay, if the machines get smarter than we are, can they say we're expendable? Then what?
I have a machine that makes me cry now.
Huh?
I have a machine that makes me cry now.
So you're already there, right? 20, 30 tiny nanobots will be able to repair and preserve our organs. That'll be helpful too.
That is.
All right, what else we got? 3D printing will be even more common. Well, you know, they did 3D print an electric car. All right, so, you know, stay tuned for that too, because lots of stuff will be happening here. 25-inch computer the size of a blood cell and able to connect to the brain without needing for surgery. Well, maybe what that means is when you're born, they just go, boom, okay, you got it, done. Society will reach a state of technology singularity. Technology enables superhuman machines, yeah. We'll have to stay tuned, all right? See what happens.
How about improvements in quality?
Well, as I've always,
Nobody seems to give a damn.
as I've always said, the challenge is technology and humanity, and being able to fuse it so that it happens in a reasonable way. And those of you on the younger side, that's your challenge as life goes on. Because those of us on the older side, been there trying to do that, and will continue to try to do that. Now, I always close with this slide. Just remember, there's nothing more difficult in this world than to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, and more uncertain in success than to take the lead in the introduction of change. Another way of saying that is those who have the most to lose from change are the most resistant to it. And that was said by Machiavelli in 1513. More recently, nothing endures but change. The only thing constant is change. Heraclitus.
And now,
the only thing that changes is the rain. I think. Yes.
Could you talk about net neutrality for a second, and where do you think the issues are there?
If I understand it, what they're trying to do is to figure out whether the internet should be regulated as a common carrier under the rules set forth back in the old Stone Ages of 1934, or whether they should be doing something different. All right, and you've got some big players involved there, so we'll see how it plays out.
But theoretically, it could impact us little people.
It could impact us if we get to a point where we say that, you know, since Netflix is paying us a big bundle of money to stream stuff, those of you who don't pay us as much, nearly as much, you want something? Well, you get around to it.
Your texting will be slower.
You know, you might notice a few more burps along the way.
Is the demand for capacity being met? So is the infrastructure makes it impossible building out to meet the demand for capacity, more bandwidth capacity?
I can't say for sure. I think it is. I mean, it's been that way ever since I've known it. Okay. I mean, I remember 1995 when they lit up the cable across the ocean to Europe, and they made the statement then, hey man, we can do, what was it, E1, which was, I forget how much that, 34, no, it was more than E1, it was like 34 megs or something like that, megabits per second. You gotta remember, when the internet was first put together, way back when, in like 86, the backbones of this thing ran at the blazingly fast speed of 56 kilobits per second. 56 kilobits, not much at all. And we've come way past that now. So, I can't answer the question directly. Anything else?
I think the limit on more bandwidth is, will it go through a rainstorm to the tower?
You're talking about over the air, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if the towers are closer together,
Oh, yeah, well,
There's
but
no
remember,
limit on
remember
that.
what he was saying before about the Wi-Fi?
yeah.
The other thing to keep an eye on, I didn't mention it here, the major carriers are planning on doing stuff like, oh, you're out of range of a cell, hey, but you're near Wi-Fi? Dude, we'll switch the call over. In fact, it's, I think T-Mobile that offers that today.
Yeah.
Go from the cell to Wi-Fi and back and forth.
Well, it's a big sell point of the iPhone 6 that you can actually do that.
Of course, yes.
Oops, your wife wants to know why it's so hot now.
No. This is my reminder to get milk on the way home. And by the way, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
December 2016, you said? I just told Bill, he could have had more time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always judge by speaker's side, did anybody walk out?
And you're mostly still awake, so that's good too.
And I didn't see any heads nodding tonight, no, maybe I missed one, but, nobody walked out. Excellent. So if we ever have so I've always said, one of these days, we're gonna establish a presenters hall of fame.
Yeah.
You'll be in it.